Hi guys, beautiful Labor Day weekend in Wisconsin this weekend. Um, Weather's perfect. Temperatures were mid 70s, sunny all weekend. Um, just beautiful. A wise man once said, life goes by pretty fast. You got to stop and take a look around once in a while or you're going to miss it. Bueller? Bueller? So I want to just take a minute and show you the top that came on the Willys. From what I can tell, it's like aluminum, I think. Super heavy duty aluminum though. Looks like it spent some time at Camp Pendleton and a UP. The doors. These babies are like 40 pounds in each. Super heavy duty. I was going to sell it or get rid of it or whatever. But I don't know. It's kind of neat, I guess. I bought a Jeep not to have a top on it, but they're not really worth anything. And it's not really hurting anything just sitting there. So I'm just going to leave it alone for now. Got the old gas tank in the trailer here. I think I'm just going to trash this tank. I was debating on whether or not I was going to try to fix it or not, but it looks like somebody's been fixing on it in the past, and I just don't think I want to mess with it. I think I'm just going to buy new. They're not that ungodly expensive, so why mess with it? Got some painting done this weekend. Exhaust manifold, intake, cooling fan, and the engine I painted. Everything turned out pretty nice. The exhaust manifold, I used this POR 15 factory manifold gray. And intake, I used this old can of cast finish. Both of these paints, I did a body off on a 66 Pontiac Le Mans probably 20 years ago, and I used those paints on that car. So they've been sitting around for quite some time, but they still work. The manifold gray, I do touch up the exhaust on my GTO once in a while with that. And then the cast finish for the intake, I'm not too pleased on how it turned out. A little light as far as color goes, but I'm sure with time and wear, it'll darken up. The cooling fan was kind of a story. Now, have you ever done something stupid? You knew it was stupid, and you did it anyway. If you're a man, you're going, because men don't read instructions. So, okay, story time. Gather around, semicircle. I painted the fan, and without reading the instructions, I tried to recoat it at like 24 hours. Put a second coat on it. When I was doing it, I'm like, I should really read that can because it just doesn't seem right. So sure enough, I sprayed it. The finish wrinkled. I had to let everything dry, sand it, repaint it. Then I read the instructions. The instructions clearly say, well, once I put my readers on, because it's, really small print because, they have to have it in Spanish too. That's a different topic. But, so I read the instructions, and the instructions clearly say, recoat within an hour or after 48 hours. Might try to recoat it after 24 hours. That's like the sweet spot of where not to repaint it. So, like I say, I had to sand it down and repaint it. So, okay, story over. Over here, I painted the engine. The engine turned out just the way I was hoping it would. the color I wanted. Yeah, I like how it turned out. For the engine, I used this paint from Bill Hirsch, just a medium gray. Turned out nice. Of course, I brushed it, and some people might think that's kind of scary, but I actually like brushing engines. It took 2 coats to make it look the way I wanted it to. The cast on the engine, it's lumpity bumpity anyway, so it doesn't show any brush marks or anything, and it just saves on masking and whatnot. I tell you what, I touch up this engine probably every 2-3 years with this brush. You can get in wherever you need to get, okay, to touch it up or just completely repaint it. You don't have to mask off anything, discombobulate anything. It works really nice. I know when I went to my favorite paint store and had them mix up some Pontiac Blue engine paint for me in a pint can, he's like, "Oh, do you need any thinner? What are you going to spray it out of? Blah, blah, blah." I said, "Well, I'm going to brush it on." And he looked at me like I had 2 heads. He just, he couldn't believe I was going to use a paintbrush to paint an engine. But I tell you what, if you want a handy-dandy tip to keep your engine looking really nice, brush it on, brush the paint on. It works. It just works. I know it's unconventional, but it works. Next project is going to be pulling that distributor and kind of working through some things. I don't know, my emotions on this whole thing is kind of like a roller coaster. This is one of those low spots because I'm making everything look really pretty and buying shiny new parts and everything. I'm not completely convinced that this engine is worthy of it. I know the compression is low. Specs call for right around 100 pounds compression. I've got, between the 4 cylinders, I've got a low of 60 and a high of 72. Now, this engine's been sitting a long time. It spins freely, but I don't know, are the rings stuck? I'm going to adjust the valves before I try to start it again and put everything back together. So I'm hoping between adjusting the valves, getting things working again, going through a couple of heat cycles, that it'll heal itself. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is it needs a rebuild, and I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. There's nothing that I'm doing that's really irreversible except for the paint, which whoop-de-doo. If it does have to be rebuilt, I can just call, everything that I put on it to get it to run, I can just call that a test fit. I can be a professional, restoration expert, and I had to test fit everything before I had the engine rebuilt. So that might be my story. Like I say, the next thing I'm going to do is mess with that distributor and the oil pump, because they kind of go in tandem with each other. Another thing that I'm a little scared of, been kind of dragging my feet, but I got to dive in and just get it done, is this distributor. I don't know who messed with what, but the distributor, the rotor on the distributor, if you put it on the number 1 cylinder on the compression stroke, okay, the rotor should be pointing at the number 1 cylinder on your distributor cap. Number 1 cylinder should be at like 5 o'clock. Okay, mine is at like 3 o'clock. Okay. Now I have seen some guys with their distributor at top dead center on the number one cylinder at 3 o'clock, but really it should be at 5 o'clock. And I'm hoping that somebody just messed with the timing and with adjusting the distributor, that it's that far out of whack. A worser case scenario is that the oil pump, which drives the distributor on the opposite side of the engine, drives the distributor, that it jumped a tooth, I'm sorry. And then the worser case would be that the timing gears jumped a tooth, and then I have to take the front of the engine off, or the cover off the front of the engine, pull the crankshaft pulley, and mess with the timing gears. So, like I say, I gotta drag it. It's really fun making everything pretty, but I've been kind of dragging my feet on this whole distributor thing and cracking that open and just kind of taking it in as far as what could possibly be wrong. I do have a nice solid state distributor to go back in there. So I'm just hoping that it's not as bad as what my imagination thinks it could be. So hopefully it'll all be okay. So I'll clue you guys in once I start cracking that all apart, if it's the best case scenario or the worst case scenario or the worser scenario. So that's going to be for another time. Beyond that, like I say, I hope you had a great Labor Day weekend, and I think I'm going to give myself a timeout and have a Pepsi and a cigar. And like I say, have a great rest of your weekend. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.